A warm welcome to all our viewers. I'm your host Harshit Bhatia and you are watching another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. In New Delhi, a significant chapter in India-Russia relations has just been reaffirmed. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in the Indian capital for the first visit since the Ukraine war began nearly 4 years ago and was received by Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself, a rare gesture reserved for only a handful of world leaders. Beyond symbolism, this summit has placed trade, energy, security and defense cooperation at the center of a renewed strategic roadmap as both nations look to navigate a turbulent global landscape and recalibrate a partnership rooted in trust, technology and geopolitics.
Russian President Vladimir Putin received a red carpet welcome in New Delhi, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally greeted him on the tarmac. A rare gesture underscoring a partnership that has weathered sanctions and shifting global currents. A warm embrace and shared drive set the tone for a visit focused on renewing strategic and economic ties. Putin's delegation, packed with senior ministers and top business leaders, signaled Moscow's push to widen cooperation far beyond defense and energy. Bilateral trade has soared from $13 billion in 2021 to nearly $69 billion this year, driven largely by discounted Russian crude. But with US tariffs squeezing India's export sectors, both nations are now looking to rebalance. Russia is keen to ramp up imports of Indian automobiles, electronics, textiles, food products and medical devices, while India seeks fresh market openings to offset losses in shrimp and engineering goods. A new economic cooperation program till 2030, along with several MOUs on food safety, healthcare research, maritime development and a major industrial venture with Uralchem, aims to diversify trade, boost investments and strengthen long-term strategic trust between the two nations.
आर्थिक सहयोग को नई ऊंचाइयों पर ले जाना हमारी साझी प्राथमिकता है। इसे साकार करने के लिए आज हमने 2030 तक के लिए एक इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन प्रोग्राम पर सहमति बनाई है। इससे हमारा व्यापार और निवेश डाइवर्सिफाइड, बैलेंस और सस्टेनेबल बनेगा और सहयोग के क्षेत्रों में नए आयाम भी जुड़ेंगे.
Успешно развивается партнерство в энергетике. Россия является надежным поставщиком энергоресурсов и всего, что необходимо для развития энергетики Индии. Мы готовы и далее обеспечивать бесперебойную поставку топлива для быстрорастущей индийской экономики.
Experts believe that President Putin's visit to India remains significant because it reinforces a long-standing partnership at a time of global geopolitical shifts. The trip signals strong strategic trust, expanding economic cooperation beyond defense and oil, and a joint push to reach $100 billion trade by 2030. It also highlights India's independent foreign policy despite global pressure.
Not to see this as a bilateral summit in a normal context. It is abnormal and it is very important for both the countries. The importance lies on the geopolitical changes which is drastically taking place all over the world. So I think India and Russia are trying to reshape the new world order by setting up the right track of their bilateral relation, and India knows the depth of the strategic relation with Russia. That's why they feel that they are already dealing with a very trustful partner and a strategic partner as well.
Russia arrived in New Delhi with a powerful business delegation for the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit, opening doors to fresh partnerships in industry, labor mobility and key strategic sectors. The two sides pledged to diversify trade, scale up investments and unlock new opportunities across manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare and maritime logistics. Above all, the summit underscored their enduring political alignment and shared approach to global governance.
Since advanced economies are not trading with Russia, there is huge opportunity, particularly for SMEs of the country. We need to look into some of the sectors where our major exports are not to Russia, particularly automobile and auto component, electrical and electronic segments, medical and diagnostic equipment, where the import size is quite big, but we have not looked into those potential.
Putin's New Delhi visit reaffirmed a resilient partnership, adapting to a changing world. With a fresh economic roadmap, expanding trade opportunities and renewed strategic trust, India and Russia signaled their intent to shape a more balanced global order, strengthening a relationship anchored in pragmatism, energy security, and a long-term geopolitical alignment.
Sri Lanka is grappling with its worst disaster in decades after cyclone Ditwa unleashed catastrophic floods and landslides across multiple provinces. Entire communities are cut off, homes destroyed, and essential lifelines crippled. The human toll continues to rise, with hundreds dead, scores missing, and thousands forced into relief shelters. Amid this unfolding humanitarian emergency, India has mounted a swift and comprehensive response, extending critical rescue, medical and relief assistance to its closest neighbor. Sri Lanka is reeling under the worst devastation in decades after cyclone Ditwa tore through large parts of the island nation, triggering massive floods and landslides. Entire villages have been submerged, communication lines snapped, and thousands of families cut off from essential supplies as the powerful storm left a trail of destruction across provinces.
Cyclone Ditwa made landfall on the east coast in Sri Lanka, impacting over 275,000 children, who are amongst the over 1.4 million people affected across Sri Lanka. And with communications down and roads blocked, the true number of children impacted is likely even higher.
The scale of human loss continues to rise sharply. Sri Lanka's Disaster Management Centre has confirmed 486 deaths, with 341 people still missing. More than 1.71 lakh people from over 51,000 families remain displaced and are currently taking shelter in 1,231 relief centers across the country. Critical infrastructure, roads, bridges and power networks has suffered widespread damage, further complicating rescue efforts.
ඒකෙන් පුතා ගෙදරම දැන් ගහගෙන අල්ලපු ගෙදර ගහගෙන යනකොට අපි ඔක්කොම පැනලා ගියා කොහොම හරි පැනලා ගිහලා ජීවිත බේරගත්තා. ඉතින් මොනවත් අපිට තත් එකක් නේ ගෙදරත් අඬත් බේ හෙදෙන් කොහෙත් යන්න බේ ගෙදර තමයි ඉන්නේ. ගොඩාක් කටි මේකෙන් දත් තුනා අපිට ගොඩාක් කටි නැති වුණා.
At this critical hour, India has emerged as Sri Lanka's foremost lifeline under Operation Sagar Bandhu, launching a rapid, multi-layered humanitarian response. The Indian Air Force is airlifting stranded civilians to safety, while Indian Navy and Army engineering teams are deploying Bailey bridges to restore vital connectivity cut off by floodwaters.
In this situation, the PMO, as you know, because the Sri Lanka is our closest maritime neighbor, so and we have to help in distress as per the international response protocol also. So as per the directions of PMO and MEA, 2 teams of NDRF with a strength of 80 rescuers, they have been moved to Sri Lanka. Early morning at 4 o'clock they flew and they have landed there. They are getting a briefing from the disaster management cell in Sri Lanka, and then they would be taken to the disaster sites for rescue and relief operations.
Indian authorities have also rushed medical teams, including doctors, anesthesiologists and emergency specialists, to provide on-ground healthcare support in the worst affected areas. Relief consignments sent from India include food supplies, mosquito nets, clothing and essential medicines. As Sri Lanka battles one of its darkest humanitarian crises in decades, India's timely intervention continues to safeguard lives, restore access and stabilize relief efforts on the ground. Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
NTT R&D Forum shows progress of ion technology and its penetration into quantum computer. To complete it, NTT announced collaboration agreement with OptQC, a leading company in optical quantum computing. NTT is researching and developing ion and quantum computing. It will solve various subjects all over the world. In 2030, ion and optical quantum computers technology will show us the dawn of a new communication and energy-saving era. The number of people killed by floods and landslides on Indonesia's Sumatra island rose to more than 700 this week, as authorities rushed to repair infrastructure and deliver aid to cut-off areas. Close to 900 people have been killed in floods and landslides that have wreaked havoc in Indonesia, Malaysia and Thailand, which follow months of adverse and deadly weather in Southeast Asia, including successive typhoons that struck the Philippines and Vietnam and added to frequent and prolonged flooding elsewhere. Environmental experts and local officials have said deforestation on Sumatra has led to a disproportionately deadly toll. The Indonesian Disaster Agency said teams were prioritizing distributing aid via land, sea and air, clearing blocked roads and repairing damaged infrastructure. NTT Inc. held R&D Forum with headword Ion and Quantum Leap. It is the biggest annual event to introduce latest technology contributing industrial progress. NTT is managing telecommunication service. Based on telephone service, NTT developed active noise control technology. NTT has cutting-edge sensor technology. It contributes to make doctors' diagnosis process more convenient. Distant patient and doctors are connected by this technology. Wireless laser technology of NTT is world top level. NTT R&D Forum is the showcase of cutting-edge technology to realize convenient and comfortable social life. It makes audience to envisage the symptom of industrial revolution.
A fresh political crisis is erupting in Pakistan, centered on a question authorities refuse to confront. Where is Imran Khan? The former Prime Minister has spent nearly a month in total isolation, barred from meeting his party members, lawyers or even his family. Growing speculation about his health and fears of something worse has triggered massive PTI-led protests in Islamabad and Rawalpindi. Yet, instead of answers, the military establishment has imposed bans and crackdowns, deepening concerns that Pakistan is edging towards a major political breakdown.
Massive crowds gathered outside Adiala jail on November 27, even as Section 144 bans remained in force in both Islamabad and Rawalpindi. Visuals show Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister Sohail Afridi, along with PTI lawmakers and workers, staging a sit-in at the gates of the prison after being denied access to their leader for the fourth consecutive week. Afridi warned that Pakistan was entering dangerous territory with nationwide tension rising as the state refuses all information regarding Imran Khan's health.
कल से मीडिया पर चल रहा था कि हमारे लीडर हमारे क्या जनाब इमरान खान साहब की तबीयत खराब है या जो है जो अफवाहें चल रही थी, तो आज नेशनल मीडिया के साथ साथ जो है वो इंटरनेशनल मीडिया पर भी चल रहा है। तो हमारी तशवीश बढ़ गई है। पूरी पाकिस्तानी कौम इमरान खान साहब के हवाले से तशवीश में मुब्तला है।
Imran Khan has not been seen, photographed or heard since early November, a disappearance unprecedented for a former elected Prime Minister. Television channels have been ordered not to show his image and court appearances take place behind closed doors. His prolonged isolation has become the center of growing public alarm. PTI leaders say he is being kept completely cut off from his lawyers, from his family, and from any form of communication. Human rights groups warn that such incommunicado detention amounts to psychological torture when carried out for weeks without oversight. They stress that the mental strain of enforced isolation is often more damaging than any physical hardship.
माशाल्लाह ठीक थी, गुस्से में थे, डिस्टर्ब इस तरह थे कि गुस्से में इसलिए थे कि इन्होंने आइसोलेशन कहते हैं, ये फिजिकल टॉर्चर से मेंटल टॉर्चर ज़्यादा बुरा होता है. और इवन आप अगर ह्यूमन राइट्स के जो आप रूल्स देखें ना, उसमें ये भी टॉर्चर में ही कंसिडर होता है जो आजकल कर रहे हैं.
Authorities in Islamabad have extended a 2-month ban on public gatherings. Rawalpindi has imposed its own restrictions, citing imminent threats. Intelligence reports accessed by local media warn that large-scale anti-establishment uprisings could erupt if Khan's condition remains unknown. The government of Shehbaz Sharif, accused widely of being installed through pre-poll engineering, has failed to calm fears. Instead, its bans and blockades have strengthened PTI's narrative that Pakistan is being run entirely by the military under General Asim Munir.
Very unfortunate. तकरीबन आज उनको आइसोलेशन में 1 महीना पूरा होने को है और उनकी फैमिली, उनके लॉयर्स और पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ के जो लीडरशिप है उनमें से किसी को मुलाकात करने की इजाजत नहीं दी जा रही है. ये कंप्लीटली ह्यूमन राइट्स की वायलेशन है और उनको शायद मजबूर करने की कोशिश की जा रही है कि आप हमारी टर्म्स पे जो है तो एग्री करें. दिस इज नॉट एक्सेप्टेबल.
The crisis is also exposing Pakistan's deeper fault line, the absolute dominance of the military establishment over elected institutions. PTI leaders say courts, including the Supreme Court, have been subjugated by the executive. Constitutional amendments pushed through by a minority coalition with questionable legitimacy have further tightened the military's grip. Even in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where PTI leads the provincial government, the army reportedly deployed troops during by-elections, allegedly influencing results. Pakistan's economy is collapsing, inflation is crushing households, civil liberties have been stripped away under what many Pakistanis describe as martial law plus. With no functioning parliament, no credible judiciary and no space for political activity, Pakistan's streets have become the last arena for resistance. And PTI says it will use that space regardless of the risks. PTI insiders admit that the establishment's biggest fear is a single public call from Imran Khan. Despite 2 years of crackdowns, arrests, media blackouts and intimidation, the former Prime Minister remains the most popular civilian leader in Pakistan. A single audio message, a single appearance, even a single verified photo could trigger a nationwide revolt. This, analysts say, is why the state is keeping him in complete isolation.
Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir is facing a deepening crisis. With forests burning, pollution rising and joblessness spreading, residents say survival is becoming harder each day. From ecological collapse to economic despair, communities are struggling without support. In Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, residents are raising alarm over a rapidly deteriorating environmental situation. With weeks passing without rainfall, the air across several regions has turned thick with dust, smoke and toxic pollutants. But what's making the crisis worse, locals say, is the widespread cutting and burning of forests, a direct fallout of rising gas prices and unaffordable basic fuels. Rapid deforestation and continuous forest fires are destroying green cover at an unprecedented pace, pushing pollution levels higher and aggravating respiratory illness among the population. Locals warn that the combination of drought, reckless tree cutting and deliberate forest burning is driving the region towards an ecological collapse.
लोग जो है वो जंगलात को काट रहे हैं बड़ी तेज़ी के साथ। जंगलात में आग लगाई जा रही है बहुत ज़्यादा, क्योंकि इस टाइम पे खुश्की है हर चीज़ पे, तो वो आग जो है ना वो बहुत ज़्यादा लोग लगा रहे हैं। उस आग की वजह से जो आलूदगी है वो बहुत बढ़ रही है और फिर बीमारियाँ भी उस तेज़ी के साथ बढ़ रही हैं। इस वक़्त चूँकि गैस या बाकी जो चीज़ें हैं वो इतनी महँगी हैं, महँगाई ने अवाम को बिल्कुल ज़ेरे आब किया हुआ है और इस वजह से जो लोग हैं वो लकड़ी को प्रेफ़रेंस दे रहे हैं, वो लकड़ी काट रहे हैं, वो लकड़ियों का से जंगल काट रहे हैं और फिर या जंगल में आग भी लगा रहे हैं। और इस वजह से फ़िज़ाई आलूदगी बहुत बढ़ रही है और उसी के साथ-साथ फिर वो उसी तनासब से बीमारियाँ भी वो उनके भी बढ़ने की भी तादाद ज़्यादा हो रही है। किसी को एलर्जी हो रही है, किसी को दमे की बीमारी हो रही है।
But environmental degradation is the only one part of PoJK's widening crisis. Residents say the social and economic situation is worsening simultaneously. Despite spending lakhs on higher education, young graduates are unable to find jobs, and even when opportunities appear, they rarely match their qualifications. For uneducated or semi-skilled youth, the struggle is even more severe. With inflation at unprecedented levels and basic necessities becoming unaffordable, many families are being pushed deeper into poverty. Mental health concerns, including depression among unemployed youth, are also rising sharply. The lack of local industries, poor infrastructure, and negligible government support have left a generation of young people feeling uncertain about their future.
नौजवान इस वक़्त पे या तो जो पढ़े लिखे नौजवान हैं उनके लिए भी मसाइल हैं और जो नहीं पढ़े लिखे उनके लिए भी मसाइल हैं। नौजवानों की सूरत-ए-हाल ये है जो लोग पढ़ लिख के यूनिवर्सिटी के अंदर उनने अपने लाखों करोड़ों रुपए उनने लगा दिए। उसके बाद जब वो फील्ड में जाते हैं तो उनको जॉब्स अपॉर्च्युनिटीज़ नहीं मिल रही उस तरह से, अगर मिलेंगी भी तो उनके फील्ड से रिलेटेड कोई जॉब नहीं मिलेगी। ऐसी सूरत-ए-हाल में फिर वो बेचारे डिप्रेशन का शिकार हो रहे हैं और फिर उनको ना जॉब मिल रही है, ना उनकी सेहत रह रही है। अब यहाँ पे जो दूसरे लोग हैं, जो नौजवान जिनने पढ़ा ही नहीं है या जिनने पढ़ाई छोड़ दी, उनके लिए तो फिर महँगाई ही बहुत ज़्यादा है। उनके लिए वो तो उनका सर्वाइव करना ही मुश्किल है क्योंकि उनके पास जॉब भी नहीं है, स्किल भी नहीं है, तो फिर ऐसी सूरत-ए-हाल में वो बेचारे महँगाई से बस लड़ के तो अपनी जानें दे रहे हैं।
As the twin pressures of environmental destruction and economic hardship intensify, people in PoJK say they see no meaningful intervention from authorities. Forests continue to burn, pollution worsens, and joblessness grows, all while essential resources become increasingly unaffordable. Residents warn that without urgent action from authorities and proper support systems, PoJK is heading towards a long-term crisis, leaving communities vulnerable, unsupported, and unheard. A deepening crisis grips Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, where environmental collapse and rising unemployment are pushing communities into daily survival struggles. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.